are going to be Beatrice and Sharon from International Rescue Committee. They're going to present on enhancing Power BI dashboard performance for Afghanistan's primary healthcare program, overcoming OData feed limitations through lakehouse architecture. The floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, my name is Beatrice Akeyo. I'm a software developer at IRC, and I'm with my colleague.
Hello, my name is Sharon. I'm the M&E technology specialist. Thank you.
Okay, so we are from IRC, and we are happy to present to you today on how we enhanced the performance of our Power BI dashboard that we developed for a healthcare program in Afghanistan. So in this demo, we are going to show you how we overcame OData feed limitations through the implementation of a lakehouse architecture. Okay, so our primary healthcare program in IRC is one of the largest program areas globally. So we are delivering over 6 million outpatient consultancies across 20 plus countries. And in Afghanistan, we operate in 40 health facilities serving about 440,000 people. Our health and nutrition teams conduct about 80 to 90 consultations on a daily basis. So you can imagine the amount of data that we generate in this program. And therefore, we developed a ComCare app for data collection and a Power BI dashboard to visualize that data so that we can be able to support our partners in so that we can be able to provide that support for our partners for reporting so that they can be able to perform their activities in the field. So in our ComCare application, we collected mostly the patient level data, but this patient level data did not include a patient identifiable information, but that made it flexible. That enabled us to be able to provide flexible reporting for our government donors and the health program teams. So the problem we experienced is that we had a high data volume crisis. So because of the amount of consultations, we had data consultations that were running into millions of records. And therefore, our data pipeline at that time could not be able to keep up with that amount of data. And therefore, we experienced some performance degradation in Power BI because our OData feeds could not support incremental refresh. Every time you refresh data in Power BI, it does a full data set refresh. And then this led to the refresh cycles extending into multiple hours. And in some instances, we experienced we experienced refresh failures, and this disrupted our reporting workflows. And therefore, our health program teams and partners and donors could not be able to access their reports in good time so that they can be able to inform their activities. So the solution we came up with for this was we worked with a feature in ComCare called the ComCare DET. So that is Data Export Tool in Full. So this tool in ComCare enables you to export data into different formats. But in our case, we exported this data into MS SQL system. So how this helped us is that the data export tool supports incremental refreshes. So that means that it will only pull records that have been modified and not all the records. So in the first run of the data export tool, it will do a full data refresh. And then in the subsequent runs, it will only pick the modified records through a process that is called checkpointing. So another advantage we got with that is that now we were exporting data into MS SQL, and MS SQL is a robust data warehousing system, and it's able to handle millions of rows, and also it enables some additional Power BI capabilities like the direct query, incremental refresh, and also optimized scheduled imports. So this enabled us to eliminate the multi-hour refresh cycles and the frequent failures, because we now had the ability to implement incremental refresh instead of having to refresh the full data sets all the time. So an additional advantage to this is that we could now be able to automate the process, and this enabled us to eliminate any manual steps that we sometimes can have during the process. So, so this was good for us because since we had records running into millions, we were now able to refresh our data better, and our healthcare teams and partners and donors were able to access their reports in a good time. So I'm going to hand it over to Sharon. We are going to do a small demo using a small ComCare app that we developed for the purpose of this demo.
Thank you, Beatrice. So I'll take you through the ComCare application that we used. Maybe majority of you have interacted with ComCare or other Android data collection tools. So this is the form I'm going to present today. This is a form that we could use to collect information about pregnant mothers during their consultation sessions. So it just collects the mother's details and just details about the consultation. So I would go back. Yeah. So I'm going to walk you through the process of exporting the data export tool. So the process is similar to how you'd export case data or form data, normally through data and then export case or form data. So in our case, it is case data. So when you open that, the most important thing is this window would come up and it would give you the option to select the columns that you'd like to pick for the data you'd like to move into the database. So you can you can use this section to select the columns you'd want, or you just select everything. So the most important thing is for you to click on this generate a data export tool. This is not, you would not normally click on this when you just need an OData feed. So when you generate a data export config tool, so this would allow you to generate a data export file. So this is how it looks like, and then you would download the DET config file. So this would be an Excel sheet looking like this. So you'd have a couple of columns. So I'm going to just go through them. So source fields are your fields from ComCare, and this column here, written fields, are the column names. So you can customize this however you'd like, if you'd like to change the column names when you move your data to SQL. So map via column is for you to change your data types. So for example, string to date and integer and so forth. So you can be able to change your data types using these columns. So this here is the data source, just defines the type of export you're doing, if it's form or case. And then you can exclusively name your table from this, or you can use the Excel sheet name, but you can exclusively do this from here. So this is the entire DET file that you would use on your script to export your data into the MS SQL server. I'll hand you over to Beatrice.
Okay, so once you have this Excel sheet prepared, so now we utilized the Databricks environment to run and install the data export tool. So we'll take you through the commands just to get a feel of how it works. So the first item, we had to install the ComCare export. So this is the package that you need to install so that you can be able to run the data export tool. So this runs in a Python environment, and that is why we chose to use Databricks, because it already provides us with that. And then, so of course, we'll restart the library once we've run that. We had to do a few additional things to make the export tool run in this current environment. So there's a folder we needed to add called the migrations folder, and then provide it with a file called the env.py file. But that is just because of the version of Python. In other instances, you don't need to do that. So what you need to do is install the ODBC driver. So the ODBC driver will be needed to be able to connect to MS SQL. And then we navigate to the site packages folder. So in Python, to be able to run the export tool, we need to navigate there so that we can run. So this is where the export tool will be installed within the Databricks, the site packages. And then once we've navigated to the site packages, we'll open the ComCare export folder that is installed there. So remembering the Excel sheet that we prepared here, that Sharon showed us. So once we've prepared this Excel sheet, we made use of the Databricks file store to store that Excel sheet, because that is what the data export tool will use to be able to know which columns we want to transfer to MS SQL. So we move it into the Databricks local file system that is also needed by the data export tool. And then from there, we'll provide details about our SQL server. So that is just the usual logins and password. So within Databricks, the good thing is that you can implement security using the Key Vault. So we've made use of the Key Vault to get our passwords. And then finally, we run the ComCare export tool. So we'll provide it with some parameters. So it requires the output format, which is SQL, the output. So this is the connection string to the database. And then you provide the username for ComCare and also the API key for ComCare. So once you have all of this set up, then you'll be able to get your data into the Excel sheet. So I'll just show you how that looks like in Excel, in MS SQL. So you'll have all your data loaded. It will look something like this. And then from here now, you can be able to connect to your Power BI and build your visuals. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Beatrice and Sharon. Next up, we have a presentation from Roina from OpenFN. So it's going to take a minute to set up the the laptop, but Roina will present on something titled Lightning in Action, Real-Time Low-Code Data Interoperability with OpenFN. And as a reminder, following the two presentations to come, we'll do a quick Q&A with all the speakers. So start thinking about the questions you want to ask now.
Hey everyone, my name is Roina. I'm engineering manager at OpenFunction, and I want to show you a bit of the coolness of the tool we get to build every single day. OpenFunction, the FN is the function key you see on your keyboard. OpenFN is a digital public infrastructure building block. So pretty much digital public infrastructure are, systems and data and tools that are essential for the functioning of huge social digital infrastructure. For example, birth and death registries, stuff like Huduma Center and how people sign up for IDs. These are digital public infrastructure that needs to be open, accessible, reusable for us to stop solving the same problems across the globe, right? So we are a DPG. So that little sign you see there, DPG, means that we're a digital public good. Our software is built on a couple of governing standards by this guys called the Digital Public Good Alliance. That means we have to deal with PPI, personal identifiable information specifically. We have to deal with privacy, security. We have to be open source. There's a really huge list of things you have to do to become a DPG. And we're really proud that our mission is very much rooted in impact, making the world a better place and having software that's reusable. We're an open source tool, but we do have a SaaS option. I'll show you a little bit about the tool and how that works. And you guys can ask me about the SaaS option if I do a good job. So pretty much so far, we have worked with 3 million plus workflow runs. Well, you look at my demo, you'll notice that we have a visual workflow builder, and each of those steps are probably steps that someone had to do manually before getting on OpenFN. So you can look at that metric and think we have automated over 3 million tasks that somebody used to do manually. You can also look about 40 million records across 40 plus countries. So this is data that could be someone's date of birth, someone's name, moving from one place to another. All that data has moved securely and successfully through our platform and has been automated or integrated into systems that we are connected to. We've also enabled a lot of secure integration and interoperability. You'll see a lot of the logos you see there are either people in the development space such as yourselves or governments. For example, a project we're really excited and proud of is like the Ghana National Health and Death Registry. So these guys come to us and they want to figure out how to move data from one place to another, and we're a secure conduit for that. I'll go straight into a really, really awesome use case. I don't know anyone who's familiar with this logo, Solar Sisters. Solar Sisters is a really, really cool initiative that operates in sub-Saharan Africa. The major value add and the major value prop is that they empower women to be able to sell portable solar charge lights and also solar cook stoves. And so when they get these cook stoves, they're able to generate a commission and some income from it. And so they have a whole network of women and a whole network of products that they provide to these women, and it's empowering loads of women across sub-Saharan Africa to make a living, and it's also great for the environment. So we got the chance to work with Solar Sisters specifically around automated payments, right? You imagine sub-Saharan Africa, most people want to pay in cash. If you don't have a smartphone, if you don't have a card and you're unbanked, you will want to buy your solar lamp that will power your house in cash, right? And so this means that the ladies who are selling these cook stoves and solar lamps have to walk around with a ton of cash. They're balling. They have wallets and coins and everything. And that's a risk. If you're in like a remote village and someone knows you have an income and a business, like you get endangered, right? So they wanted a solution to automate payments and automate reconciliations, because somewhere someone's tracking the metrics. Someone needs to see how the money is flowing. Someone needs to be able to account for it, and that was a manual task. So comes in OpenFN. We really wanted to make sure that we solve for a couple of things. Manual data entry. A lot of the transactions were being tracked manually, spreadsheets, it's in someone's drive somewhere, right? And then we also want to make sure that when payments are done via mobile money or any other digital payment method, that there is an automatic reconciliation process that happens. When you're looking at this automation stuff, I think the biggest thing I want you guys to keep in mind is that a lot of it is optimization, right? But a lot of this stuff is essential, because this was someone sitting at a desk every day doing this as a full-time job, prone to mistakes, prone to errors. And so it's really important for some of these organizations to have this stuff automated. So we came in with our workflow builder, and pretty much we were aiming to collect, to have payments from all of these providers, because they're across sub-Saharan Africa. So you'll notice M-Pesa in Kenya and Tanzania, Tigo Money in other regions. You'll see PalmPay as a payment options in other regions. And they want to aggregate all of this information through this funnel. And through OpenFN, they want to be able to populate their Salesforce reports and be able to see everything all together and have a really clear audit trails. So what we do is we're a conduit for this data, right? This data comes in different formats. If you get access to an M-Pesa API, it's a whole different API. If you get a Tigo Money API, it's a whole different API. Our software is built to be able to plug into all of these things, also plug into Salesforce, so that all the geeky stuff that's happening in the background around the data transfer is happening securely, and it's happening on demand, right? And it's also happening regularly and predictably. So, I don't know, I don't think we have any of our members here who was in the project, but let's say Pius from OpenFN came in and helped design this workflow. A lot of this work usually happens on like a whiteboard in a room somewhere. Someone's gonna draw a little, like a bunch of boxes and put some arrows and see how the data works. But you can do this on OpenFN at the moment. It's pretty much drag and drop, select what tool you want to integrate into, and then see how that workflow will look like. And so for Solar Sister specifically, they wanted every time somebody makes a payment through a Kopo POS or through a Kopo payments gateway channel, our system would be listening for that payment. Immediately that payment is received by our system, we would store the event information to use later in the workflow, right? It's kind of like a mini cache for a moment. And then they'll go ahead and put in the transactions and create that transaction on Salesforce, right? So this means we have an API on Salesforce that every time that event is triggered, it goes and creates an entry on Salesforce, and then goes ahead and uses the transaction ID to match the two platforms, right? The Salesforce part and the Kopo part, and then reconcile the transactions based on the amount and transaction ID. We look like a visualization tool, but in the background, you'll see there's a lot of flexibility you get to enjoy with OpenFN, because we use JSON expressions to do a lot of data transformation and be able to do some of those operations. So whereas you would have a whole other platform that does the recon, you could get a dev who does some really good JavaScript, and they can come in and say, look at transaction ID 001 and amount 001 and make sure that it makes sense on this other platform. So all of that is flexible on the platform. And then after that, they can add summary logs for visibility if a reconciliation happens. So the outcome on the target system is, this is like on the Solar Systems Salesforce. The reconciliation field will be written by us, because the recon operation has actually happened on our side through the workflow that you just saw behind there. And you'll be able to actually see the fully reconciled record. So that's another thing I want to clarify. We're not the tool that collects the data, right? Like you guys saw Databricks and they have a storage. We don't store your data for you. We are the interoperability layer. We are the conduit, we are the pipeline, and we are moving the data and standardizing the format of the data so you don't have to worry about doing that. So the other good thing with us, because we're a DPG, we have to be very, very transparent on how your data is moving around. So on our platform, for anybody who's looking at either Salesforce or any of the systems you've integrated to, they get a very detailed log of how the information was actually retrieved. So everything from your API keys, everything is here. You can debug this. You can see the exact point of failure. Like, why did this one single record not reconcile? Well, 7 million of these records reconciled. And we do that on a high level where you'll see green and red to know at the point of failure of a step, but you can go deeper into it and see very detailed logs in JavaScript and know exactly whether you wrote a single line of code that made the whole flow break or the whole flow is actually broken. Sorry. So the other thing I wanted to mention about us being a DPI is that means that we have to be open source. We are open source. So a lot of this project is a combination of our internal team that have built the platform. And a lot of it is someone wanted to integrate WhatsApp and we had to integrate WhatsApp. Somebody had a use case where they needed Twitter for some reason for broadcasting information, and we came up with an adapter for Twitter. So one thing we're constantly inviting people is to OpenFN can be a tool that you use for anything. I've seen people using OpenFN as a tool to avoid following channels on Slack. Sometimes there's like 50 channels, right? And you want a couple of things. You just want to know, when was the last time this thing was mentioned and how did I respond to it and what's the output? So it can be used as a productivity tool on that level, right? But then organizations like Solar Sisters, UNICEF, the health registries in multiple governments. We've just done a really interesting project with the Ministry of Health in Ethiopia, in Niger, in Burundi. These guys are doing life-saving operations, right? If they don't have a way to safely move patient data from one place to another, a patient could be denied healthcare access. So we can do very, very flexible operations. And then if you do have a fully fledged team that really wants to geek out on local deployments and they don't want to run this stuff on our servers, we've really cracked that and we've done it in super remote areas. And again, one of the biggest things I want to mention is we do need community contributions. We need a lot of people who can come in and tell us what we don't have, what their use cases are. And so if you see me, Pius, or Hunter in the back, and you're wondering, do you guys have an integration to, what's a random thing, to Substack? It's pretty easy to have like an integration to Substack with our community contributions. We're also on GitHub, so you can always pull this thing. You can pull the entire project and make it whatever you want. And that's pretty much it. That's OpenFN, guys.
Thank you so much, Raina. We'll have one more presentation. Coming up next will be Derek from Medicafia. He's going to present on the Kenya Electronic Community Health Information System, powering level 1 digitalization in Kenya's smart primary care network.
Yeah, afternoon. I'm Derek, lead at Medicafia. We support governments and implementers digitized community health systems. So today I'll be talking about a case study of Kenya's electronic community health information system, also known as ECHIS. It is deployed across the country. It's in the hands of 107,000 community health workers. And so far, we've registered about 29 million Kenyans on the platform. So it's a foundation of ministries of health digitization efforts in community health. ECHIS is the largest point of care system in Kenya, second to DHIS2. DHIS2 has a 15-year head start, but in terms of active usage, the ECHIS has grown to be that platform. So the problem we were solving for with this is a closed loop referral mechanism. So previously, community health systems were siloed, facility health systems were siloed. And to unify health systems in line with the government digitization vision, we had to help the government think through how to do interoperability between these two systems. So how this thing works, the goal is to make referrals paperless. Currently, CHPs fill in a paper, give it to a patient, and then they deliver it to the hospital. There are challenges. Papers can get lost, transcription errors, and all that. So the goal is to have the CHPs initiate the referrals directly, paperless. Then anything that happens in the facility is captured both at facility and also made visible at community level. CHPs get notified of actions at facility rather than following up on a patient, maybe let's say 72 hours later to see what happened. And the follow-up tasks are now triggered based on actual data rather than hard-coded rules of, say, follow up a referral patient after 24 hours. And then the missing piece that is now possible is counter-referrals. In some cases, you get discharged from a hospital and you need further care at the community. So the facility hands you over officially to the health worker. Now, each is one system built on the open source community health toolkit. So it's a DPG and a global good. But to achieve this, we had to interact with a few other systems. The client registry, where all Kenyans will eventually get registered, so a single source of truth about someone's biodata. Health facility registry that tracks all registered facilities in Kenya. The community health worker registry that will be the single source of truth for all community health workers in Kenya. And the terminology service to ensure that how we code information is consistent across the different point of care systems in the country. So what does this change? Number one, visibility. In the past, once you fill in that form as a CHP, send someone to the facility, we don't have that visibility. So that information is now tracked across the entire health system chain and is visible to the community health worker. Then we've added a component of measurability of referrals. Given that this information is now tracked across the health system, you can come and verify how long does it take from when you initiate a referral to when they get to the facility, how long does it take to either discharge or refer to another facility. Then the other bit is the unification of the health system. So we've broken the silos. Now community health is integrated into facility health. Then the last one was the referral back. Because given that the two systems were siloed, there wasn't that cross-level integration of data. But overall, once this data is unified, there'll be visibility of this data across the entire health system. But this wasn't easy. We are at a proof of concept stage, but what we've learned, we have 3 key lessons. Connectivity in the last mile is very difficult. The dream is to build good technology. You'll test it on your laptop or in Nairobi, everything works, but deploy it in remote areas. You find people work in areas with pockets of connectivity. Do that referral, you're offline. But you need systems to work offline. So that tension, the data doesn't move very fast in those situations. And then this requires coordination. Interoperability is not just a technology problem, it's a socio-political problem. So you need to drive that alignment across all players. It took a lot of time, it's still taking time, coordinating government agencies, working with vendors. And the last one is systems are still maturing. We started this initiative and other systems in the space like the registries were still coming up. So we are still playing catch up, but there's some order in the space and we are working towards achieving that vision. So I think this summarizes this closed loop referral. So we look at the players. We have the community health promoter, the health information exchange. So the government is building that layer with other vendors. You bring in the facilities, the automated notification of whatever happens at the facility to the community health promoter, and also that counter referral. So once this is fully matured, we will have a very robust system that now closes that gap in digitization in Kenya. So I'll show you a quick demo of how this works. It captures just one or two use cases. This is the view a community health promoter has on their phone. So essentially, a community health promoter will register the entire catchment area. This is what you see on the left. Let me just, so on the left, the catchment area. So these are like households. Then you'll drill in and get into a profile. So this is a sample profile. Then you'll fill in an action. So this is contextual. So let's say you're assessing a patient. In this case, we'll pick a set of conditions that require referral. So go through that quickly. At the end of it, you get a summary of what you've collected and the guidance. So you see referral has been recommended. So this will happen digitally. So the syncing is automatic, but in some cases you can just force it to sync at that point in time. Now, this is a view of one of the point of care systems approved for government facilities in Kenya. This is Taifa Care Tibabu. So within that, you'll present yourself to the facility. They'll search for your ID. You log in, search for your ID, find a pending referral, and act on you. And then the background, if there's any need for the facility to hand you back to the community health worker, that will happen transparently and end up there. So this is it. I was working, and the original conditions were very short demos. So today we have more time, but I'm happy to answer any questions, either as part of this or otherwise. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Derek. I want to invite the speakers, Derek, to stay on stage, and then invite the other speakers and presenters to come on stage to take a few questions. We got about 9 minutes that we can do some Q&As. So.
Great. So my name is Eric. I have a question for each and every one of them. Can I do it in one go? No? Go for one. Okay. Open function. Do you handle reversals? If someone pays by M-Pesa and a reversal needs to be done, do you handle that? That's one. And then the last one for you is, how do you handle the different elements of a cost? So I, as a consumer, have paid 1,000 shillings. 800 is tax, goes to government. 50 comes to you as your cut. The different segments of a cost. Do you handle that?
It's on. All right. One thing I want to clarify is that we're not handling the payments, right? A provider like Safaricom, Airtel Money would have to expose services like reversals to our system. Yeah. So pretty much what would happen in a reversal setup, if the M-Pesa Jenga API has the capabilities for you to reverse a payment, and you would want to do that via your workflow on OpenFN, then that should be possible. But then we wouldn't be able to introduce a new feature on their APIs or capabilities. Yeah. And then in terms of like payment splits, it is possible if we have access to your wallet for you to specify that you need like a 20/80 split between a specific transaction, and then we'd still need to have access to a payments provider that would be able to route that money however you would want it routed. Yeah.
Stay up front.
Hi, Jemima. I'm Jemima. So I have a question for the healthcare. What is the process of consent collection while you're registering the patient? And are there any issues with the data quality as it's being transferred all the way to the dashboard? And then how is the data sharing agreement for this patient being referred to another facility?
Yeah, 3 hard questions. Well, consent is something we've been working with Ministry of Health to understand. There's this notion of, like, now healthcare is getting to the point of basic human right. It's a public goods, public service. There's a gray area on that, but in the same way that they cannot deny you service without having registered on some systems. So it's a work in progress. I know we got feedback from Data Protection Office on something we need to work through with government, so it's in progress. In terms of data quality, as with any system, this has been 4 years. We've gone through that maturation phase, stabilizing validations, user distrust, because this is a national effort. People thought it was a campaign tool at the start, so they don't give you their ID numbers, or they don't give you their right date of birth. So we've been working together to just fix that slowly. We've also been building tools to identify inconsistent or problematic data and work with community health workers to solve it at source. So it's there, but we're working through it. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll go behind, and then if not, I'll go back to you.
Thank you very much. I'm Ubeda Tubraima. I work for CRS Ghana. My question goes to IRC. I see that the example you demonstrated using ComCare, you used the case list. And so I want to find out if one wants to use the surveys, whether it's possible, and if you've tried that before.
Okay, thank you for your question. So by service, do you mean the form? Or the case form, yeah?
You know, we have two types of forms on ComCare, the case form and then the survey form, just a one-time tool. And so I'm asking whether that can also be explored using the same system.
Yes, yes. So that can also be exported using the data export tool. So with the data export tool, you can be able to export case data, and you can also be able to export form data. So for the survey, it will be form data. So the process is the same.
I'm going to go in the back, and then I'll come back.
Thank you. My name is David. For the health system in Kenya, how are you socializing this with INGOs who have different solutions in place? Taifa Care is now being approved as the ideal platform, whereas INGOs have different hospital solutions. So are we looking to scale or isolate what we have and adopt Taifa Care? How are you doing the socialization of your tool from ICHIS to Taifa Care?
So ICHIS is a government-led initiative. 4 years ago, there was an ecosystem survey of tools that were involved in community health digitization. SWOT analysis was done, and a platform was selected. And the ICHIS that we see today was co-created between government and IPs. So it is a government-endorsed platform. Partner-supported, government-led. Now, on Taifa Care, that's, let's say it's part of government's broader health digitization efforts. Taifa Care is now an umbrella name. There are 3 point-of-care systems there. Tibabu, Kenya EMR, that you may know of from the USAID PEPFAR era, and Afya KE. So the Digital Health Agency is working through a certification framework to help point-of-care systems conform to the functional requirement expectations they have of point-of-care systems. So if you do have a different one, I think the best course of action is talk to the Digital Health Agency, see the certification requirements, and either evolve the tech to fit that, or maybe adopt one of the existing ones, because they also have developers or vendors supporting them. So it's a trade-off you have to make. Just pick and choose.
Hello, my name is Ali. Just a couple of questions. I want the ICHIS team. Just a quick one. Who pays for the synchronization in terms of internet data? And to the IRC team, can you speak to the performance gains changing from all data feeds to the DET solution? Thank you.
Interesting question. In the first phase of ICHIS, government had an arrangement with Safaricom, who was like the largest MNO in the country, and they had zero-rated those costs. That contract came to an end. We're now in a limbo where either some IPs are subsidizing the costs or CHPs are digging into their own pocket to pay for synchronization. But they're working hard to ensure that this is restored, because it's essentially government's responsibility to ensure that these data flows smoothly and at no cost to the community health promoters. Thank you.
Yeah, so in terms of the Power BI performance, there was a lot of gain moving from all data feed to the MS SQL server. So the challenges we got with the all data feeds is that as we started to receive more and more records, and I think we noticed a threshold of about around 400,000 records, then the performance starts to degrade in terms of refreshes. So with that, and this is because the all data feed will do a full data refresh. So the performance gain with using the data export tool is that now you're able to implement incremental refresh instead of the full data refresh. And then that also allows you, so when you move to Power BI, you can be able to implement some additional functionalities of Power BI. Like you can now be able to use the direct query to query your data in SQL. Plus, you can also move some functionality, some calculations into SQL. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we got, exactly on the dot. So thank you so much to all our speakers. Another round of applause. Make sure to find them outside, ask them questions. We're going to take a 10-minute break and then come back here for our last tech demo of the day and of the conference, focusing on messaging tools. So we got 10 minutes before a new session.